What is the creepiest/strangest thing that has happened to you or a friend or family member that creeps you out to this day? Part 2. Story 11. I delivered newspapers in a fairly rural area the summer after I graduated high school. One night it's pouring rain and I'm driving down this dirt road that is a dead end to a farmer's house. I've been down this road a few dozen times and know this routine. Drop the paper off in the box at the end of the drive, whip a Yui, pack up the road, and off to my next stop. This time, as I'm getting out of my car to place the newspaper in the holder, I see this man in the ditch wearing a drenched white shirt running to me as fast as he can. He got within 20 feet of me. I could see what my mind pictured as a hatchet or axe. I never ran so hard in my life. Edit. I ran back around the front of my car, jumped in, and took off. Everything happened so fast that I almost didn't realize where I was. It must have been about 5 to 10 miles later that I attempted to call 911. No signal using my Motorola flip phone in the middle of nowhere in the year 2000. I had to stop at a farmer's house to call the police at 2 a.m. Turns out the guy killed himself within an hour of his run with me in that wooden ditch. Edit. I had not thought about that night in a long time. Kind of rattled nerves again thinking about it. Story 12. I had a dog once that was super loyal and loving and would always come running to me when I called and would almost crash into me when I had treats for him. One day sitting in the living room, all of his hair stood up on his back and he was just staring over my shoulder, growling and showing his teeth. No matter what I would do to try to get him to come to me, he would never break his stare at that one spot and just kept growling. I eventually carried him out of the room because it was freaking me and my roommates out so bad. Story 13. My mother was almost killed by her stalker neighbor when she was younger. Cops suspected he was hiding in the house with a kitchen knife while she was in the house. Luckily, she got her creeped out feeling and ran to her grandparents' house. Edit. Okay, since people are asking for the story, I am going to just copy-paste from when I told it before. Okay, so when my mom was young, her and her mother lived in a trailer in the backyard of a family member's house. My mom was about 12 at the time that the man in the neighboring house started to stare at her from time to time. She got a creepy vibe from him, but figured it was just a harmless, lonely guy. One night when my mom was alone, she heard something on the roof of their trailer. Then she heard what sounded like footsteps slowly walking along the metal rooftop. Given they were dirt poor at the time, they did not have a phone, so she eventually ran out of the trailer and into the house without looking on the roof. When her uncle went outside to investigate, nothing was on the roof. A few weeks went by with no incidents, and my mom figured she must have been overly scared of nothing. More effed up stuff would randomly happen, but only when she was alone, and it was always spaced out a week or two. If I remember correctly, this occurred over maybe a couple months before it stopped completely. Months go by without any weird instances at all until one night my mom wakes up to the trailer unbelievably hot. She could feel the heater on full blast. She got out of bed and was about to go to the control for the trailer's heater, but she was overcome with a bad feeling and decided to just go into the house. The uncle went out to the trailer and noticed that the lock on the door was broken or messed with, and he looked inside quickly but didn't see anything. His wife made him call the police, and when they came out, they searched the trailer and found one of the kitchen knives behind a chair next to the heating controller. They suspected that the neighbor went into the trailer, turned the heat up, and crouched behind the chair waiting for my mom to come by, and then who knows? It's been a long time since I heard the story, but from what I remember, the cops questioned the neighbor but really couldn't do anything about it. Luckily, my mom and grandmother were able to move out of that town right after that. My mom told me that about 5 or something years later, she was visiting another family member who lived in a nearby town, and she saw the neighbor at the grocery store, and she bolted out before he saw her. First off, really glad your mom was okay. And folks, this is a good lesson about trusting your gut instincts. Sometimes your subconscious realizes something is wrong in ways your conscious mind just can't pick up on. Human senses are pretty amazing, and frankly, in a situation like this, if you trust your instinct and are wrong, you just look a little silly. If you don't trust your instinct and are wrong, it could cost you your life. Better to risk looking foolish than to risk death. Trust your instincts. They might just save your life. Story 14. My grandfather passed away in 2008. He was a big fan of opera music and would blare it in the morning if he and my grandmother ever had any grandkids sleeping over. It was a good wake-up alarm. About a week or two after his funeral, I was lying in my bed when I began to hear a scraping noise. I looked in the direction the sound came from to see a clock radio on the top shelf of my desk turned to face me, sliding across the desk in my direction, and it started playing all by itself. The music it was playing was opera music. I don't care that I'm a skeptic and have a hard time believing this. Even if the OP made this story up or dreamed it, I get missing a grandparent, missing that connection. So, hell yeah, hold on to that memory. I hope it was real, and I hope it gives you comfort. Story 15. My great-grandfather awoke to a man standing on the corner of the bedroom watching him and my great-grandmother sleep. They lived out in the middle of nowhere, so they never used to lock their doors. Apparently, this man had just broken out of a mental institution and walked there. Story 16. My grandmother told me a story that creeps her out still. Back when my grandfather was alive, my grandmother woke up one night to hear something smashed downstairs. She woke my grandfather up and made him go check it out with a baseball bat, and when he got downstairs, there was a broken flower pot in the middle of their family room about 20 feet from where it usually was. There was no dirt trail, it was just smashed on the floor in the middle of the room as if someone dropped it straight down. Story 17. Content warning, discussion of possible cannibalism. Scroll forward 47 seconds to skip this story. My mom just recently told me the story of her friend's creepy dad. One night when she was younger, she stayed over at this friend's house. Friend's creepy dad offered them fresh venison for dinner. Mom had never had venison, but of course ate it so as not to be rude. Friend later tells mom that her dad is not a hunter. Years later, we learned that creepy dad had murdered and cannibalized several women over the course of his life. Mom is pretty sure she ate human meat. Okay, I was not prepared for that, and frankly, that's I don't even know how to process that. I hope that friend's dad is locked away and that your mom is doing okay. I think I would really need some therapy after something as traumatic as that. Holy crap. Story 18. My boyfriend works night shift and I was asleep alone in the house. I got woken up in the middle of the night by my puppy whining in the living room, and I assume it's because he wants to go outside. I'm just about to open the back door when I hear this weird scratching/clicking sound at the front door, like someone was sticking something in the lock. I go to check, and I can see the silhouette of somebody standing there through the window in the door. I then notice there's a second figure in the living room window, although it's too dark to make out any features. I know they can see me because I didn't have any blinds at this point, and they just stood there. I totally freaked and called the cops, then my dad. I huddled in the kitchen out of sight of any windows and waited for someone to come. My parents live across town and showed up before the cops. They were gone at this point, but the neighbors across the street were up and saw the car. I ended up staying at my parents' place that night, and when I came home the next morning, I noticed the basement window was partially kicked in. I got a security system installed the next day. I still have no idea who it was. Story 19. Just a few months ago, while I was still in school, I rented an old house with two of my friends. I lived in the basement, and they each had a room upstairs. Several strange things happened to me while I was living in that basement. The first was that I had just gotten a dog, and he was about 4 months old at the time. Now and then, right when I turned the TV off to go to sleep, my dog would start whining and growling at one corner of my room. He would usually not get on my bed because he wasn't allowed, but during these times he would jump on my bed and get as close to me as he could, all without his eyes ever leaving that corner. This happened about 5 times over the course of 4 months. Then, toward the end of the school year, when I was about to move out, the scariest thing that has ever happened to me in my life occurred. Under our stairs was a little door that led to a small space that had a dirt floor. There was also a really weird old wooden piece of what looks like a map nailed to the inside of the door, so it's a pretty spooky place. Up until the day before this incident, we had kept a small chair in front of this door that I laid my coats and things on, but we had some friends over the night before, so we brought the chair upstairs. It was dark, probably 8 p.m., and I had just been upstairs in the kitchen. I'd just gotten off the stairs and was about to open the door to my room when the door to the little closet under the stairs opened so slowly and with the loudest creak I've ever heard in my life. I stood rooted to the spot, frozen in fear, staring at the closet, waiting for whatever was about to come out of it. I literally stood there for about 5 minutes, absolutely terrified. Eventually, I opened the door to my room and locked it as fast as I could. I wasn't sure either of my roommates were home, so I called my female roommate and she was there. I spent the rest of that night upstairs with her, still too scared to go back downstairs. I should mention that I'm a 21-year-old man who does not scare easily. Now I know many of you will probably say that it was the wind or the fact that I had just come down the stairs or something, just as my roommates did, but I've had those things happen to me before and been kind of creeped out, but this was different. The second I heard that closet open and looked over to see it opening so slowly, I felt this sheer terror. It honestly felt like there was someone or something else in the room with me that wanted me to see that door open. If this gets any significant number of upvotes, I'm going to have my female roommate who still lives there go down and take a picture of the basement and the little room under the stairs. Edit 2. Guys, I texted my roommate, but she wasn't at the house at the time. I'm just waiting on her to send me the pics, and I will post them as soon as I can. Please stop massacring my poor inbox. Edit 3. OP delivers. Here is the link to the 3 pictures of the closet. I'm sorry it took so long, but I was waiting on my roommate to send me the pics. Edit 4. The map has been confirmed as the northern part of Indiana, judging by the fact that you can clearly see Fort Wayne labeled on it. However, if anyone would like to offer up any explanation as to why there is a wooden road map nailed upside down in the inside of the door to the spooky closet under the stairs, I'm taking suggestions. I mean, a door not properly latched, the house shifting and settling. I could see a door balanced just right so that it slowly opens like that, especially when you're walking by, and offer up just enough motion from your footsteps to set it off. As far as the feeling, you've already had your dog freaking out at things to put that stuff in your mind, and the human mind is an amazing thing. Take it from someone who has suffered from some episodes of sleep paralysis. There can be nothing wrong, but your body can suddenly go into fear overload and freeze up. Still, even if you can explain that, just as I can explain my sleep paralysis episodes, you are still very justified in that memory still scaring you. Story 20. There I was, a young man in a crowded Chicago bar. It was 2 a.m. and I was slightly intoxicated. I'd just been denied by the girl I foolishly spent the whole night talking to, and I celebrated by taking a couple more shots. Suddenly, all the alcohol I had drank that night came rushing to my bladder, so I decided to head to the bathroom before calling it a night. After stumbling through the crowd, I finally made it to the dilapidated bathroom that was located downstairs. When I walked in, I was met with a shocking sight. There, standing in the middle of the men's bathroom in a crappy bar at 2 a.m, was a topless blonde breastfeeding what looked like a newborn baby. Whether I was too drunk or just in shock at what I was seeing, I couldn't seem to move or speak. The silence was broken when the woman, clearly appalled that I was staring, yelled, "Do you mind?" and proceeded to squirt her breast milk at my face. The woman's attempt to hit me was successful. Without saying a word, drunkenly thinking I was somehow in the wrong, I walked out of the bathroom, wiped the breast milk from my face, and exited the bar. Since it all happened so fast, it wasn't until the next morning that I was able to process the absurdity of what had happened the night before. Story 21. This happened to my friend. She told me that when she was little, she was playing with her little brother and sister one night. Her little brother looked out the window and said, "Who is that man?" They all went to the window to see what he was talking about. She said there was a white figure sitting on top of the telephone pole. Looked like a man. He was staring at them with a huge, creepy smile. Then he just stood up and jumped off the pole and simply vanished before they saw him hit the ground. She said it scared them so much her sister won't even talk about it. I don't know what it is about this story, but that is really creepy. Like, my belief is that one kid imagined they saw it, told the other kids, and as they got older, they believed they remember seeing it too. Trust me, I've seen this happen with kids, had it happen with my cousin when I told him stuff. It doesn't surprise me. But there is definitely something about that image, at least how I'm seeing in my head, that is really creepy. I can't say for sure if your sister saw anything, but I sure wouldn't want to see that. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.